Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Evolving Security with Cloud-Based AI. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You may have joined the presentation listening using your computer's speaker system by default. If you prefer to join over the telephone, just select phone call in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You'll have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. And you may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. So without further ado, it is now my pleasure to introduce your speaker, Simon Cook, Sales Engineering Director EMEA at Eagle Eye Networks.
Thanks, Chloe. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I know that from the registrations, we had a lot of people from all over, which is great to see. So welcome to the presentation. As Chloe said, my name is Simon Cook, and I'm the Director of Sales Engineering at Eagle Eye Networks for EMEA. Now, just a little bit of background on me. I've been in the security industry for about 17 years, and then prior to that in the IT industry for probably 10 to 12 years before that. So in the last 17 years, I've really been involved in that kind of evolution of the security industry. So, I've seen the industry change from analog to IP. I've seen the industry change from DVR to NVR, and then from NVR to VMS, and then VMS to cloud adoption, which is where we are today. And I spend a lot of my time talking to customers around the, the evolution of the cloud in security. But the next step really, and what we want to focus on today, is cloud-based AI or artificial intelligence. So, we see a lot of the benefits our own lives day to day from AI, right? It's a big subject. A lot of people talk about it. A lot of applications use it, whether you realize it or not. We see it in banking apps. Banking apps use it to detect fraudulent activities. We see it in streaming services like Netflix or Spotify or things like that. They understand our viewing habits and make recommendations and changes accordingly. Navigation apps like Google Maps or Waze or applications like that, and also obviously cars. A lot of smart cars these days making use of AI to to obviously get us to places safely and safely for pedestrians as well. And ultimately, all of these applications really to give us a great experience and make our lives better or easier in some way. So really, what we want to look at is how this can actually help security. But if we just take a look at the AI market more holistically initially, so I just wanted to run through some numbers just to give you an idea of the way that the market is evolving. So the first number is $327.5 billion US, and that was the global market size of AI last year in 2021. 91.5% of the leading businesses are investing in AI on an ongoing basis. 86% of CEOs report that AI to them is considered mainstream. So in security, we talk a lot about cutting edge or emerging technology when it comes to cloud and AI, but actually for a lot of people, this is considered mainstream already in their office since 2021. 83% of organizations have increased their spend year on year since 2019 on artificial intelligence and being able to sort of give value into their industries around this technology. 40%, this is an interesting one. 40% of us as adults actually use voice assistants every day to search for something. So whether it's using Siri, whether it's using Google, however it is that you use your search assistant, ultimately 40% of us are using that day to day. And it helps us find what we want to find. We use simple everyday language that AI understands to help us find that information. And then 230%, this is the increase in retail alone as a vertical on AI machine learning spending over the last 3 years. So quite significant numbers. And obviously you see from this how obviously that market grows and continues to grow. And obviously, this is more AI specific, but it just kind of shows that the investment and the spend and the applications is just rapidly increasing. So this is really like the more holistic view, but let's actually look at some of the benefits in video surveillance as an application. Now, as I said, I've been in the security industry for quite some time, and I've seen the evolution of security as an application. When I started in the industry, it was really just recording cameras to protect people and property, right? And it's continually evolved. And certainly over the last 2, 3, 4 years and the last couple of years with COVID, I've seen it transform from a security platform more into a business intelligence tool. And actually, with that, a core business intelligence tool, something that people rely on day to day to actually understand their business and improve, efficiency and effectiveness. So, what are we talking about here from benefits perspective? Well, as I've said, ultimately, it's looking at improving operational efficiencies. How can we make the lives of the operators or those using the systems better and actually get them the information they need quicker when there's an event occurring? And it could be, any raft of events. But if we actually look at COVID, particularly the last couple of years, security was being used to control the flow of people in a building. So when we had to, observe distancing and this kind of things, they were actually using security as a mechanism to tell them when an area of a building was having too many people in it, or trying to control the flow of people around a building so that there wasn't people coming in and out at the same time. All of that, security was used for to improve that operational efficiency or operational improvements to a business. Getting greater business insight, what are customers doing in the store? What are the employee patterns and behaviors that we could learn to actually improve our day-to-day lives for customers or employees? So actually understanding what's going on in our business. So in a retail example, how long are people spending in queues? I know, certainly those of us from the UK, we love queuing. We see a queue, we join it, but ultimately, we don't want to be in that queue. We don't want to be spending the time. So understanding our business, how long people are spending in queues, where they're going in the store, how long they're spending at that particular part of the store. So all of this to give us greater business insight from our security platform. And of course, with that comes optimization. So, if we understand the business, if we improve those operational efficiencies, then obviously this allows us to optimize our business. So, obviously the gain from what is effectively a security platform, the gain is the optimization of improving that business to be more customer efficient or, give better benefit to the employee. And of course, simplification. Now, again, I've seen that evolution of products. I've seen, NVRs become more clever. I've seen VMSs that have, huge amounts of features to do everything for the operator. But, I liken this to a car. When I started driving many years ago, I had a very basic Ford Fiesta. It had an engine, it had doors, it had wheels, it had nothing else. A stereo that got stolen several times, but apart from that, it had nothing else. I didn't have to do anything other than what I was taught to do in my driving lessons and just get in and drive the car. Whereas these days, obviously, there's so much tech in a car that when you buy it, the sales guy or girl has to spend about an hour explaining what everything is. So, it's great to have all these features, but actually sometimes simplification is key. And of course, with all that, we want to enhance productivity. We know that, especially with security staff, unfortunately, they're typically the ways of reducing costs. So, staffing is being looked at in a number of verticals, but again, especially retail, we look at doing more with less. So, reducing cost however we can, but actually having those people that are remaining, enhancing their productivity to give them the tools to be able to do more, with less effectively. And again, better experience, whether it's customer, whether it's employee, ultimately, as we learn from our day-to-day lives using AI, we're looking at a better experience. So we've talked about the AI market. We've talked a little bit about some of the benefits from a security application, but what we haven't really touched on is what it is. And there's books, there's websites, there's TED Talks, there's all kinds of learning on understanding AI, and I'm not going to go into it in the 20 minutes or so we have left today, but ultimately just to give you a high-level overview. Now, we've used analytics quite a lot in security over the last years, and there's lots of different types, and the term AI or artificial intelligence is now thrown around quite a lot. But what I'm talking about when I talk about AI from an eagle-eye perspective is machine learning AI. Now, if we look at the image on the left-hand side, this is your traditional AI. This is ultimately very, very smart people spending a lot of time writing very specific algorithms, telling a computer how to see. So it works on a number of different ways. edges and blobs is basically what it's called, to make up how a object or a vehicle or something like this should actually appear to the computer. So that's all well and good, and every couple of years those analytics or those algorithms will be rewritten, and those clever people will come out and write a lot of mathematics and so forth to actually get that to understand a new license plate format or a change in license plate format or something like that. But you have to wait for that update to occur. What we do is we use machine learning. So what machine learning is really is basically ingesting lots and lots and lots and lots of images, labeling those images, and then training the computers to understand what those images are. So we actually tune the learning, and we have, instead of that PC on the left that's just expected to see this this edge and this blob to get that object, we're having an inference engine, and an inference engine really is just making logical deductions about the assets that it's given. So it knows that this, and this equal this. So it's really just training it to do something a little bit more clever than the traditional computer vision approach. So an example of this is fairly straightforward. It's a car. So what we do with the traditional approach is we use those edges and blobs. So you can see the red lines there, the edges. So the edges appear here at the front, at the back, across the windscreen, and then the blobs will be the wheels, the side windows, etc., etc. So we create an algorithm in the old computer vision way to actually understand that this is a car or a person or an object or a license plate or whatever it is, but we have to define those edges, those blobs. In the new, so that's all well and good, but actually if you have a non-sterile kind of view, or if your view falls outside of the way that algorithm was written, so here we have a couple of examples at the top. You have very, very busy car park with an odd camera angle, or on the right hand side again, a busy car park with a camera angle, but also having a change in the picture. Something that the computer hasn't been, the algorithm hasn't been written to understand. Then obviously what you see is the accuracy rates start to decrease, and then of course operators start to lose trust in it, and then it's switched off, and the benefit is gone, the money is gone, and the value is gone. And then of course cars are evolving all the time. What happens if I want to tell the difference between a Jaguar and a Porsche in this instance? Or these cars now start to look more and more the same. So how do I define how those cars look? So again, all of that based on the traditional algorithm approach. So when we talk about AI, we talk about machine learning. Really what we're talking about is training it with much, much more information. So what you have, these green blobs along the bottom, they are just combinations and variations of millions of those images that the inference engine is given to understand that all of these different layers equate to an Audi. So if you see the picture on the left, the camera sees that, it runs through the layers, the blobs, it runs through then the detail, the finer detail, features, badges, everything, all of this different information to ultimately make the decision that it's very confident this is an Audi car. So what this means ultimately though is it takes a lot of compute power to actually build this, and this is really we'll talk about some of the challenges in a second, but this is really one of the things that you start to see is the sheer compute power required to actually get to that point of that being an Audi car. And just to give you an idea for some of our numbers that we run, some of our clever bots that have created this, to get that single Audi car, it takes around about 50 million calculations to ensure that it is actually an Audi car. So you really see that the level of information that the machine has to ingest to understand that output. So what does that mean then? We talked about obviously the benefits, a little bit about what it is, but what does that mean? What challenges does that present? Well, first, as I've said, is that compute power. To do all those calculations requires a lot of hardware, software, and I mean, obviously that comes at a huge amount of cost. And at the moment, with the chip shortage the way it is, those costs go up. So, those high-powered servers, the GPUs, everything that's involved in that all has obviously complexity and cost. And yeah, it's difficult to install, it's difficult to manage, difficult to maintain. There's a lot of challenges with actually putting a platform like this onto a site. And then it's about application. I see a lot of presentations much like this. You attend, you go to a trade show, you hear a lot about really cool technology, but actually finding the application where, you know, in the old ways, you just need to see a car in a simple situation. There's very few applications for that. You know, when you want to have that application, you're told, yep, but it's got to be a sterile zone. The picture's got to be look like this. It's got to be that. The application reduces, and the actual real world scenario becomes, you know, something that the analytic can't actually do. So that's also quite a challenge. But if I get past all of that, the other thing that we see is multi-site capability. So, you know, again, I'll use retail as an example. I have multiple sites. I don't just have one site. Then I have to have that compute power, cost, complexity, and I spread that across all of my sites. So these are some of the traditional challenges I've seen, certainly when I speak to, you know, some of the customers that we've worked with that are looking at, you know, evolving AI. These are some of the core challenges that put them off. So what do we do? What do we do that's different? Well, firstly, for those that don't know, Eagle Eye Networks, we have a cloud-based VMS. Now, this is a self-hosted cloud. And what I mean by that is it's dedicated, you know, purpose-built for us, entirely by us. So we're not tied to release cycles or configuration parameters by Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services or anything like that. We own our own data, you know, our own cloud infrastructure in data centers all around the world, and it's purpose built from the ground up to be a video surveillance and AI platform. So again, we're not just putting it onto a platform that was designed primarily for longer term storage or cloud-based storage. It's actually designed for surveillance and for AI. And it's an open platform. So as much as we like to think everyone's going to use our analytics and our, you know, platform, and they want to obviously build a holistic security platform. So it's an open platform, meaning that we talk to third-party platforms to actually build out a more holistic security approach. And camera flexibility, you know, we're not tying you to one set of cameras or to a small set of manufacturers. We're actually giving you the ability to retain your existing investment in cameras, be it analog or IP. We support, I think the last count was over 10,000 different camera models, but you know, thousands of cameras from all the leading manufacturers, and even some that you've probably never heard of before. But ultimately, all that to say that we retain that investment in the infrastructure. And cybersecurity. This is something that often comes up when you talk about cloud, and certainly when you talk about artificial intelligence. Cybersecurity is often a question that comes in. So, you know, we have that cybersecurity in our DNA. So our CEO and founder of the company used to head up a company called Barracuda Networks. So for those that don't know, Barracuda, very, very big in the IT space for security, so cybersecurity. So again, he's brought all of that knowledge and experience into our platform and built it from the ground up. It's not an afterthought for us. And we deliver through a global partner ecosystem. So, you know, we have partners all over the world in all different verticals, working with all different customer types to provide these types of solutions. From an architecture perspective, so if you look at the data center in the center, that's in the middle. So that is our application, our approach. So everything that we do from an AI and analytics perspective is built into our core in our cloud, meaning that we don't have to have expensive hardware at the sites that want to run analytics. So everything is in the center. Our AI, we connect third-party analytics directly to our core, and they run from the cloud. What we have on the right-hand side of the view are the sites. So again, all our different cameras, analog or IP, we connect to a bridge, and that bridge effectively connects those cameras to our cloud in a secure, outbound only, encrypted way. So that bridge does all of the cyber security and encryption. It does an awful lot of bandwidth management to ensure that obviously we're not saturating the internet links. Allows you to, as I say, connect multiple camera manufacturers and types, and it can also do an element of edge filtering to allow the the analytics at the edge, but also run all the heavy lifting in the cloud. And on the left-hand side, everything that we do is browser-based. So there's no fat client to install on site, to update, to manage, etc. It's all done through a browser. So access anywhere, obviously, and also through mobile devices as well. So talk a little bit about the applications that we offer. So again, all using machine learning technology, all based in our cloud VMS platform. The first is LPR. We talked about the car example earlier. Well, LPR is prevalent in a lot of opportunities and a lot of customer scenarios that we work in. Now, being an AI-based LPR platform provides a number of benefits. Key really among them is we're camera agnostic. So again, much like the retaining existing hardware, we don't have to have a high-end ANPR camera, which can actually be quite prohibitive for a lot of opportunities. We don't require that type of hardware because it's not running on the camera. It's not having to, to have all that compute at the edge. We work with standard and non-standard plates. So our application was actually designed and implemented initially in India, which is one of, if not the most challenging market across the world to work in for number plate recognition, because a lot of the plates are either hand drawn or very basically created, and we have to be able to read and understand those. But we have high accuracy across the US, Asia Pac, the Middle East, and of course here in Europe. So again, it's that intelligence, artificial intelligence model. We pride ourselves on high accuracy. So we talk about, I've come from an LPR background. We talk about high accuracy rates being around early 90s, 92, 93% accuracy is good for most every ANPR manufacturer. But we, with AI, look to go 95, 96 and beyond, because we're really confident in that accuracy using the AI engine, using that constant learning that we do. And obviously the key there is to reduce those false reads and detections and ultimately give that accuracy when it comes to that plate read. Camera agnostic. So really the key benefit here is reducing hardware cost. We're not going to have to require those expensive dedicated ANPR cameras to get that good accuracy rate. One of the key things, the more information that we ingest, the more plates that we read, the more information that the engine learns, ultimately allows us to continually improve the accuracy. So we do the updates and the accuracy increases, and that's automatically there. There's no upgrading or updating the customer has to do. And again, as I've said, we use this application in some of the most demanding countries in the world, but we also use it in an access control base as well. So of course, for access control with license plates, that has to be an accurate read to be able to allow that person entry to that site. So that for us is key to have that high accuracy rates. A couple of different areas of use cases. Parking is the obvious one, whether it's retail parking, whether it's a private property, whether it's logistics, whatever it is. Parking is probably one of the biggest applications that we use LPR for. But it doesn't have to be existing. I mean, we have existing customers in fleet management or car rental applications where they measure time in, time out, and how long. They measure the parking, all of these kind of things. We have corporate offices. So again, the access control into those sites. We work with partners to create solutions for that. There really is no sort of restriction from an application base in terms of where we use this, but certainly parking, fleet management, and those corporate offices, restaurants as well, curbside pickup. Key customers for us when using the LPR application. The next application really is something that I think in my time in the industry, it really is, it's very easy to say it's a game changer. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but one of the biggest challenges whenever I speak to end users across the years, one of the biggest challenges that always comes up is how easy it is to find footage. How quickly it can be, especially if you have the police there waiting, or a parent that's lost their child in the store or whatever it is, how quickly it is to find that footage. So this is something that we are launching next month, and it's the smart video search. Now this is really, I think the simplest way of describing it is a Google-based search, right? So it's using that natural language to find footage. So, if I go into Google, I want to find a hotel near me, I just type in hotel near me, or I want to find a bar that sells IPAs, then I do, bar near me IPAs, and I get those results. We want to find the same, we want to use the same approach with, with security. So we're using that natural language-based approach, and we have it based on, objects and classification that I mentioned earlier. And this is done across multi-site. So because all of this, again, is hosted in the cloud, there's nothing required at the endpoint or at the site to run this analytics. We can do it across multiple sites. So, if I've got a store or a store chain, I can actually search for footage or for people or for cars across all of my sites simultaneously. So again, the way that we search is people, vehicle, objects. So, by gender, by clothing type. So, show me a person or a man or a woman in red dress or red shirt or blue jeans or whatever it is. And I simply look for footage based on those identifiers. And then when I find that piece of footage, I can actually do a re-identification. So show me everywhere where that person has been. I was using the analogy a little while ago. I'm a father. When my kids were younger, they used to love scaring the life out of me and running off and disappearing, which for any parent on the call, how you have that sort of minor heart attack when you turn around and they're not there. So, going to the security operator and saying, hey, can you tell me like where my kid is? If they just have to ask you, what was he wearing? What was she wearing? You give them a brief description. They run that through the search. It's like, yeah, he's over in, over in the clothing section. Think about the time it took to find that. Think about the, as a parent, the fear that you're going through and the pressure the operator's under, all of that to actually really reduce all of that stress. And again, for me as a customer, I'm super happy because, I walk out of that store, not only with my purchase, but also my beloved child. So vehicles as well, we identify vehicle types, car, bus, truck, motorbike, and not just that, but also understanding the make. So, show me the Honda car or the Honda SUV or, that kind of thing, and then adding color onto that. So show me the black BMW. We can actually do searching like that. And then objects as well. So backpacks, handbags, suitcases, bikes. So, and also the ability to combine all of those together, right? So, show me a man in a black shirt driving a red BMW with a backpack. We can actually create that a smart string into the system, and it will show me all of the footage associated to those characteristics that I'm looking for. So again, hopefully you can see the simplification and the time it takes to find that footage in an event. So just to sum up, because I'm getting close to the end, so our approach really, is to deliver, as I said, that secure cloud-based video with artificial intelligence, making it ultimately safer. We do this, using industry-leading cybersecurity. We like to think we have a very flexible, open platform. Multi-location and multiple site management is something that we do day to day, and it's true cloud. It is built exclusively for video surveillance and AI. So again, we're not repurposing a platform trying to put it into the cloud. We're not using a solution that is already existing for a different purpose and trying to repurpose it. We are actually built from the ground up in a true cloud approach, and everything is continuous delivery. So we roll this out continually. All the learning of the AI, all the features into the platform, it's all continually updated. There's no updating that needs to be done on the operator side. So I've said a lot in a very short space of time. There's three things I want you to leave with from this session. The first is AI really is evolving the way that we use security, moving not just from protecting people and property, but actually into business critical applications. So it's really stepping into the core of customers' business. AI, again, it's a term that's thrown around a lot. Analytics, a term that's thrown around a lot. Not all applications are created equal. So when you're looking at applications, really think about what the back end is doing. What's the cost of the compute power? Where is that compute power residing? How does it look? What's the impact going to be? What's the application? If I don't have, a sterile view of a car or a person, what's the accuracy going to be like? So think about that. And then finally, of course, when you've thought about all of that, think about the fact that we offer a true cloud-based AI solution that grows and scales as the customer needs demand and dictate. So I had 30 minutes, I've hit 32 minutes, so just a little bit over. I'm hoping that was useful to you guys. Obviously, feel free to reach out to the sales team at sales@eEN.com if you have further questions. But I think now, Chloe, we're going to open it up and take some questions from the audience.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. So as Simon mentioned, we're now going to begin answering the questions submitted during today's presentation. And as a reminder, you can still submit your questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. So Simon, the first question we have is, do you have data centers in the UK?
Yes, we do. That's a very good question, actually. We get that question fairly regularly when it comes to data sovereignty. Yes, we have a data center in the UK in London. We have data centers across Europe. We have data centers in the Middle East, or one coming online in the Middle East. We have data centers in APAC and also, of course, in North America. Great,
thank you. So our next question is, do I have to pay for dedicated GPU servers in the cloud platform?
That's a very good question. one I get quite a lot, and the answer is absolutely not. So the great thing about the way that we price the application is it's included in your subscription. So we offer multiple or tiered subscription approaches, but it's actually already included in that, and that's the cost of everything. So there's no additional hardware in the cloud, outside of the cloud, that you need to purchase. It's literally the subscription for our VMS platform.
Perfect, thank you. And our next question here is, what markets will benefit the most from AI?
Well, I'd like to say every market, but I think, you know, realistically, what we tend to see the most is retail. Retail have a very, very strong use for this. I mean, obviously, I gave some examples in the presentation there about the different applications. Smart cities, you know, certainly when there's any kind of involvement by police or security services across smart cities, they will do it. And then logistics, you know, understanding logistics business, we are seeing a lot of customers looking at how they can actually use AI to actually help them understand their, you know, their business better. So probably three key ones that we're looking at, but also, as I mentioned, you know, we have a lot of car rental or sort of how do you call it, distribution sites as well, managing their, you know, their chains and their rentals based on the AI that we offer.
Thank you for that. So our next question is, are objects identified by operators and tagged?
So the operators, no, they don't do that. We have, you know, a team of people in our company that are looking at objects periodically to ensure that the data that's ingested is correct. What we do have from time to time, you know, sometimes it's very rarely a misclassification. It might be an orange t-shirt instead of a red t-shirt. So the customer would say, hey, you know, we noticed this, and then that would basically be triggered to our team that are, you know, just sort of checking on the inference engines and actually retagging and reclassifying. But no, there's nothing required for the operator or the customer when it comes to classification. It's all done by us.
Okay, great, thank you. And the next question is, when will this be available to test?
That's a very good question. So we're in beta at the moment, and we're just closing that out. It will be available in July, so next month, or in a few days actually, and we're already going through the end of June. So it should be available in the market within the next few weeks. But if you are an Eagle Eye Networks partner already, reach out to either your sales engineer or your salesperson, and they should be able to get you a pilot for this.
Perfect, thank you. I think we've got a bit more time to just go through a couple more questions.
Okay.
So are there open source tools for using AI in security for academic and education levels?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I don't believe we offer that. I mean, there are a number of tools out there, open source, that you can utilize, but not something that we offer. But that's a very good question.
Brilliant, thank you. And so the next one is there an app for the system, and does this incorporate notifications on a smartphone?
So there is, everything is web browser based from a computer, but there is a mobile and tablet app, yes, and you would get push notifications. So, you know, any events or triggers or alerts from an analytic, you know, cross-line detection and stuff like that would all be sent as a push notification through to your mobile phone.
Lovely, thank you. And then I think we've got time for just one more question. So what is the latency of the output image with average 4G connection on the remote sites?
That's a really good question. So latency is always a difficult one to you know, to judge. But what I can tell you, I mean, I haven't worked on it on 4G, admittedly, but I can tell you that I've worked on very sketchy trade show Wi-Fi, and the latency from the video going from the site to the cloud, being analyzed and being ready for me to actually search on, was 8 seconds. So, you know, from a compute and searching perspective, very, very quick. I mean, ultimately, as I said, with the Bridge application that we use, it can actually do a lot of that smart bandwidth management. So, you know, it's application dependent, but from the testing that I personally have done, it's super, super quick. Obviously, I appreciate that taking me at my word, but yeah, it's something that I'm very excited to say is very quick.
Okay, great. And actually, we've just had a last question sent in. So can your platform link up to control room software?
Yes, it can. So we have that open API that I mentioned, you know, the third-party integration. So we're working on a number of applications, but we have IMIX, Advancis, IMS, Genesis, Bold. So there's a number of alarm receiving sensor and third-party monitoring applications that we are either currently supporting or in the process of integrating into. It's a great question. That's certainly something that we're focusing very heavily on.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Simon. I'm afraid that's all the questions we have time for today. And thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. You will also receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. And on behalf of Eagle Eye Networks and our presenters, thank you again for joining us today and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.